not to skip all the way to the end, because it's kind of what I'm doing here, but I think a really gutsy decision. And I feel like it's the right decision for this film. It's the way it should have went. Um, is the fact that Lupita Nyong'o's character dies at the end, or at least it's implied that she dies. Maybe she spread wings and was able to fly at the end of the movie, but I'm going to assume that she was dead. And so
Yes.
that's a very Rogue One feeling thing where you spend all this time with these characters, and one of our two leads gets away, and that was pretty awesome the way that happened. You kind of felt that really heartfelt moment where Djimon Hounsou's character grabs his hand. That was awesome. He's got the cat. Also, real quick, when did she have time, Ryan? There's a note that he reads at the end. Did I miss that when I went to the bathroom? When did she write that note?
I'm not positive either, but I also I don't have this question. So I don't know
Okay.
if there was something about the telling of that didn't bother me, I guess. But I'm
Sure.
not entirely positive. Maybe she just stayed up because they spent the night together. So maybe she wrote it the night before
Sure.
when like he was asleep or something. But I also went to
Yeah,
the
because
bathroom a couple times, so I don't even know if I
yes,
even considered to think about it.
there was a moment towards the end where I went to the bathroom, and as always, I'm like, I know I'm going to miss something big, and usually I do miss something big, and so I didn't know if I missed that note, but it was kind of, it was okay, and then, but she dies, and he makes it, and that was, her character, what she was dealing with, her health problems. I thought that was just the perfect way to do it, the perfect way to go about it. When she's playing the
Mm.
song, she unplugs her headphones. That was awesome. My issue with her, and I understand why she went back to that place and refused to go, but it's the whole, I'm going to get pizza. And I know she wasn't actually going to get pizza. She was going to get the photo and have the really emotional moment. But it's just like, for 2/3 of the movie, I'm like, I just, why are other people cool? And I know they weren't cool with it, but why are other people so willing to go back and get pizza with you? Just let you do something stupid. I don't want to go back and get pizza with you because I want to go somewhere safe. I don't want to die. And so that, her motive throughout the movie, not knowing what the actual motive was, I was just like, okay, go get pizza. I love New York pizza. If it was John's at Bleecker, maybe, but not the one she went to.
Do you think there's something perpetually going on in these people's minds, especially her in her instance, because she has cancer? So I'm going to assume it's terminal. Uh, if they said it, I just forgot. But is there something going on constantly where they're just wrestling with their own mortality? So it's like, it's just a matter of time before I die. At least I get to choose when. So it's like, I guess my question is, do you think she planned for that pizza to be the last thing that she did from the start? And then
That's
that's what was inconveniencing her about having Joseph Quinn along with her. Or am I just saying something that's obvious and you're going to be like, well, no, duh, that's the point.
No, I mean, you're absolutely it. I wouldn't say it's going to be obvious to everyone, but I would say that is absolutely the case. I think that was, she knew she was going to, I mean, that's why she unplugs the headphones at the end of the movie, because she's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to die soon anyway. This is something that was slowly killing me and now fast track killing me, and that's one of the beautiful things about her character. And I'm not saying I didn't fully connect to her character because of what she's going through. It was more so just not having a lot of those really touching examples of, especially between the family and the first film. There were so many beautiful moments and so many conversations, in quotes, that they shared together, and things that got me emotionally connected. And while I thought Joseph Quinn did a nice job and Lupita Nyong'o did a nice job, I just wasn't super hooked on their story. It was more
Right.
so I got moved by the ending, but that journey there, I just wasn't quite connected. I see what they were going for with struggling with her mortality and all of these things, but I just wasn't really connected to that like I wanted to be.
And I will admit, I think they did enough. Like I just think simply I didn't buy into it, but I think they did. I think they did all the right things in terms of making this compelling enough that you want to see if they can make it. I mean, that's the whole point, right? You want to see how these people just make it out of every situation, but also
Yes.
you want to care. I just didn't care as much, but I don't really know what else they could have done to pull me on board. But to speak to, I wish we kind of talked about Joseph Quinn at the start before we broke for spoilers, honestly, because I think he was the thing I was most curious about going into this movie, because I don't know how to get excited about him being in Fantastic Four yet. Just because to me, he's only been Eddie in a season of Stranger Things. And like, there was like a brief amount of time where he was like an internet boyfriend, like when that came out. But other than that, I don't know anything about this dude. I've only seen him as that. So this was my first go around with him on the big screen. And I don't know. Like, I thought he did a great job, but he was kind of just like a character in a horror movie. And I don't think I would ever get excited about an actor from seeing them in this type of role. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially playing Human Torch, going from this, and I'm sure there'll be something else, but from this to that, I don't watch him in this movie and say, oh my God, now I am just
Yeah.
over the moon about him playing Human Torch. I thought he was great. I mean, genuinely some great emotional scenes, and what he did with his eyes a couple of times, the tears towards the end of the movie, that was great. But he didn't stand out in this film.
Yeah.
He just gave a really good performance, and maybe that's just him. But I need to see more before I can get there on my hype for him.
And again, I'm not hating. Like, I don't think he could have done anything else. It's just the fact that, like, if I go into this movie wanting to get excited about him, I don't think I can't start a Stan account for Joseph Quinn because of what he did in A Quiet Place Day One, even though I have no complaints. And like, Lupita did awesome too. Like, I thought that they were both magnetic on screen and did a great job. Yeah. So it's just like one of those weird things where we're kind of, I don't know, everything in our mouths is really just such a justification that it's not the best movie, and not that it's even a bad or good horror movie or anything. I mean, that's really what our argument comes from. Yeah. So I wanted to touch on I think I was probably mostly frustrated of all the scenes with, well, I think the water and the cat thing annoyed me, but the ending, at that point, it's just like, I was waiting for somebody to just take their shoes off. Just take your shoes off if you want to be quieter. Like, maybe not when you're in the road. There's, you're breaking car windows left and right. There's glass all over the place. I get it 100%. But like, the boat sees that you're coming. The boat can turn around and be loud. So you don't, I mean, maybe like run to get a start to jump into the water. But you guys are making noise the entire time when I feel like you didn't have to. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. And that was another, seriously, that was another piece of my just not being able to believe some things that I saw in this movie. Like, humans would actually make those mistakes. You're absolutely right. Just take your shoes off. You creep around a little bit better because you weren't very good at creeping around. And Lupita can even go and make those noises, fine, but just do
Lupita, I understand. I mean, that was the whole point, is that she's trying to distract. I understand, but like, him just like taking off the breathing and the stepping, it's just like, all you had to do is just walk away. But also there's an element to it too where I'm just like, how much would they hear? I know they have like incredible hearing, but let's not act like these monsters are insanely loud themselves. So like, I feel like if they're distracted by car alarms and they're all screaming and hooting and hollering and stuff, like, would this guy running over here distract all of them from Lupita? Like, it's like, I just again, it's all these questions just make me enjoy it a little bit less. That's really all that it comes down to.
Earlier with that's what I was talking about, with where he barely kicked the glass and the car alarms are going off. I'm like, guys, it's a bunch of car alarms. They're all not going to rush him over a small piece of glass. It's just not the way. And then Lupita did all of that stuff and survived. Whereas somebody earlier in the movie can like step wrong and die, you know?
and those aliens are right behind him at the point that he jumps. It's like it's a narrow miss, even though he's
Yes.
being that less loud than Lupita. So anyway, so there are probably people that are annoyed with this conversation and with us.
For sure.
So what is
That's
the argument against what we're saying?
Suspension of disbelief is often the argument for a movie like this, because in a movie like this, you need people to make dumb mistakes, and with something so bad happening all of a sudden, and they say in the movie, they're like, "Is this the apocalypse? Is this where we all die?"
Mm.
It is easy to say, well, the rationale just maybe wouldn't be there. It wouldn't be present. And he's dealing with some very, some anxiety, some panic attacks through the movie where she's holding onto his heart and he can't control himself, can't calm down. I think that was actually a nice touch to his character. Very stressed
Agreed.
out individual. Who wouldn't be in this moment?
Yeah.
So someone who is on edge like that, and I'd say most humans would be in this situation, I think some of that decision making would be a little chaotic. I think some of that decision making, you wouldn't have the time, I believe, to prep yourself, especially where you just learned that you can't make noises, to prep yourself to do every little thing at all points all the time. That's something that it probably took Krasinski's family in this universe years to learn and years to master. And so my argument against how I actually feel in this movie is maybe the people making dumb decisions are just scared to death and freaking out and having panic attacks constantly like that. And that's fair. I think that's a very fair argument. And I would absolutely listen to someone. I personally couldn't get past it. And because I couldn't get past it, it did, make my enjoyment just a little lower than maybe what I wanted at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think we admitted at the top that like that's built into the movie. So it's just whether or not we choose to accept it or not. So
absolutely.
But is there anything else that we need to cover? I mean, we kind of touched on this idea, not that there needs to be, but I also brought up that there's not really a path forward other than the fact that we can just assume you can always make these movies. But because this was just such a vignette of day one, there isn't really much else to it.
No, and that's okay though. I'm fine with that. This isn't a movie that needs I guess you technically could do a sequel if you wanted to, but you don't need to. And that's cool. Just keep bringing me spinoffs but let's go to another country. I'd like to go to another country for the next one. I think that would be cool.
Joseph Quinn makes it back home somehow. I don't really know how. I don't know how you.
Oh yeah. Oh, you're right.
How do you? Let's think about the fact that I don't know how hundreds of people can get on a boat and then the boat can start its engines and then leave the dock without the aliens taking every single one of those people out. Like, how can that logistically be pulled off? Like, seriously, that's the kind of stuff that this movie makes me think about. It doesn't make any sense. And then they're just blowing the horn as they go through the river. It's like, that's just stupid.
Yeah, it is.
So
yeah, you're absolutely right.
So how can they get 100 people to a boat, start up the engines, and get away in time? Maybe they can, but maybe make that a scene in the movie. I think I just wanted this movie to be like War of the Worlds. It's kind of, like if they did more War of the Worlds, because that was another point that I had. My bad point is that I want to not trust more people. I don't know what motives you would or wouldn't have in this type of, because it's not quite like Walking Dead-esque. It's not quite, I mean, the apocalypse part, but
for sure
you can have different motives and agendas because you're speaking and you have to, so that I wish there was a level of distrust. It didn't have to be in this movie, but I want to see it somewhere else. But if Joseph Quinn can make it to England, and I don't know, maybe he lives on his family farm and they have underground tunnels that they can survive in and talk. That way we can actually hear some people talking, and then, like, I don't know, planning like a war against these people. I want to see like A Quiet Place year 10.
Mm.
And I just want to
Mm.
see like a war, like people have figured out they can build, but it took 5 years to build these bunkers in England, and Joseph Quinn happens to be in the resistance, and they figured out
Yeah.
like they figured, like just do more of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that
Um,
would be sweet. It is fun though, thinking about how everybody found out at different times about the whole sound thing. It's like they
yeah,
could have found out on day one because you're in a city with people shouting it out over a speaker, or you could have found it out on day 250 when you saw a bunch of people die for that specific reason. And so it's fun to see. And that's why I think the concept of doing it in so many different locations and
yeah,
places, because they're all going to be finding things out at a different speed. But I
yeah,
think you're inevitably we're going to get to a point where we're going to take the aliens down and take Earth back. And so that's a cool place to end it if they want to end it there in a handful of years, however long it's going to take them.
yeah. And I will, again, because I feel like I'm already thinking about people being on the defensive. Yes, the New York City is the place where people are going to find out in the quickest fashion that they need to
Sure,
shut up.
sure,
I know that
yeah.
100%. But anyway,
But it was a missed opportunity, right? You hear year one, you hear day one, you think, oh, it's going to be a fight for survival and it's going to be people figuring things out. I
yeah,
do wish there was more of that in this movie. I liked the smaller story, but at the same time, the broadness of the event is part of what made me excited for it. And
yeah.
we didn't really get that as much as I needed. And so that was
Well said.
ultimately disappointing. Yeah.
Well said.